Okay, I want to call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody to the July Borough Board meeting. If we could please all rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How are you? Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming out for this special meeting. I'm saying this with my fingers crossed that there will not be an August meeting. So we're going to move along quickly. We just have the one presentation and then we'll be voting on a resolution. So attendance, all the members are here. If you haven't, can everybody just please take a look at the minutes in the packet? And once you do, can I have a motion to accept? Okay, first Jerry, second Nick. Okay, so we're going to go right into the presentation. Garrett, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Garrett Berger from the New York City Parks Department. I see a lot of familiar faces here. We did go to all 3 community boards, so I know a number of you have already seen this presentation before, so I'm going to try and be brief. And then anything that I'm going to skip over, we can address in questions for those of you that are new. So this is the second ULURP application in support of the Army Corps' South Shore of Staten Island Coastal Storm Risk Management Project. We were here, I think, in December 2016 for the first ULURP, which that one focused on acquisition and site selection of private properties, and that was approved. We're in the process of acquiring those properties. Everything is moving forward there. This is the second ULURP in support of the project, and this is to demap city-owned streets, and then also to site select existing city-owned property or property intended for transfer to the city from our Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. They did the buyout in Oakwood Beach, and those properties are intended for transfer to the city, so we site selected them as well for the project. This project is also known as, a Staten Island Levy, Staten Island Seawall. It has a lot of different names. This is the full formal name from the Army Corps. There we go. Just a quick rundown. I'll give some background on the project and our role in it, the real estate required for the project, and then the land use actions, and then I'll get to dive into this specific land use action that we're talking about today, and then some next steps, and then we'll open up to questions and comments. So this is the Army Corps project area. It is in the east shore of Staten Island. It extends at its most northern point from Fort Wadsworth down to Great Kills Park. This red line here on this map is the proposed levee footprint. It's actually what they call the line of protection. It consists of a armored seawall buried seawall, from Fort Wadsworth all the way across to the wastewater treatment plant here in the corner. And then when you get to the wastewater treatment plant, it becomes a flood wall, which is higher. And then from there, it transitions down to a levee, which ties into high ground and Willowbrook Parkway. And the entire extent of the seawall from Fort Wadsworth until it hits the wastewater treatment plant will have a boardwalk and promenade on top of it. The hatching shown in this map is the other component of this project, which are primarily drainage that consists of excavation for ponding areas and then also open space preservation around them to make sure that the drainage ponds don't overflow so they function successfully. And then there's also some road raisings to provide access to the seawall during storm events, and then to sort of function as internal levees between the drainage areas. And then in Oakwood Beach too, there's a tidal fronting wetland which will attenuate wave forces as well. So that's the project area. We have 3 main responsibilities for this project. The first is the local cost share. The project costs $615 million about. That number might go up a little bit just based on 2018 prices. The city is responsible for 10.5% of that, which translates to about $65 million. The federal government is paying the lion's share, and the state is paying a bit more than the city. I forget the exact percentages. Our second responsibility is to coordinate with the Army Corps in design and implementation. We're already doing that. The Army Corps is in its design phase. Just some recent things that have happened is they have their engineering consultants out in the field inspecting all the parks facilities that are in the path or near the path of the seawall. They've installed groundwater monitoring wells, and in August, they should be starting geotechnical borings, and doing hazmat investigations, which is a big input into final design of this project. And then the third responsibility is the acquisition preparation of real estate, and that's what brings us here today. That was why we were here for the acquisition ULURP, and now for this demapping and site selection. And the fourth thing that's not listed here is it's anticipated that once we sign the agreements for the project with the state and the Army Corps, the city will be responsible for operation and maintenance of the seawall of the entire project. It will be a city facility once it's constructed. In terms of the real estate required for the project, there are 711 lots, and the vast majority of these are already city-owned. They also include a couple federal and state properties like Miller Field. The state has 2 very small properties in Oakwood Beach, and then of course all the Gosser properties, which are intended for transfer to the city. I think there are 84 Gosser properties in the project area, and there are 200-something total properties that Gosser bought out in Oakwood Beach. And then DEP, for their Blue Belt program, they've been acquiring, wetlands, and the Army Corps' drainage area actually was designed to overlap with the existing DEP Blue Belt, so they're coordinating on the design of those drainage areas. And then, of course, the private properties that we received approval to acquire last year. There's also a number of streets in the project area. A number of these are already city-owned, and the DEP is in the process of acquiring a number. We received ULIP approval to acquire 13. Since then, we've done title searches and figured out just 2 very tiny bits of those streets, which are actually in front of existing DEP properties, are the only little private pieces left that Parks actually has to acquire for this project, which was good news. So I mentioned the first ULIP, the acquisition ULIP. This is their second ULIP that brings us here today to site select existing publicly owned properties and then to demap streets crossed by or seaward of the levee. There will be a third planned ULIP for this project, which is to demap streets that are landward of the seawall and the drainage areas. And the reason why these 2 demapping actions are happening separately is because the demapping of the streets in the path of the seawall or seaward of the seawall must be done in order for the city to tell the Army Corps, okay, we have all the real estate prepared, you're ready to go. Because streets are inalienable, and so they can't be used for a non-street purpose, and the seawall is a non-street purpose. And those seaward of the seawall would not be able to function in the streets either because they're cut off from everything else by this giant seawall. However, the streets in the drainage areas, drainage is technically a street function, so in consultation with the law department, this is not something that we had to do before certifying to the Army Corps, and we decoupled the 2 actions to make sure that we got everything done we needed to do before the Army Corps is ready to start construction, because the city does not want to be the one holding up this project. And then as part of that next ULIP too, there's also going to be road raisings. Those are for, I spoke about this previously, this is grade changes to facilitate road raisings, to provide access to the top of the seawall, and also to function as internal levees. So just to get into the meats and bones of this second ULIP, we're proposing to site select 48 lots and 8 sections of street bed. That includes 5 existing city-owned lots, and then 43 lots intended for transfer to the city by Gosser, and that totals 13.1 acres. And then for the demapping actions, we're proposing to eliminate, discontinue, and close 11 sections of street bed, and that totals 21.5 acres. The vast majority of the street bed is unbuilt. All of the properties we're site selecting, all of the lots we're site selecting are already city-owned. And the demapping of the streets won't impede access to any private properties. There's only one private property that adjoins any of the streets, and the street it adjoins is unbuilt. And when I go to the maps, I'll show you its approximate location, and it has street access via an existing built street, so there's no issue there. This is the site selection area. It might be a little hard to see. The yellow represents the streets to be site selected. So we have this Emmett Avenue here, which kind of runs adjacent to and through the city portion of Great Hills Park, and that's an unbuilt street. We're site selecting that, so is Box Street. There are a couple built portions, like down here, this section of Cedar Grove, in between Fox Lane and the wastewater treatment plant, that is built. We're site selecting that, and then the red hatching here is the existing city-owned lots or the Gosser lots that we're site selecting. So the vast majority of these properties are owned by Gosser. And then the other colors here just represent the purple is the seawall. This sort of greenish blue here is the wetland. The darker blue is the ponding areas, and the lighter blue around it is the open space preservation, which just means we can't develop those areas. So we can come back to this if you have questions, but now you'll see here this is the demapping area, and this overlaps largely with the site selection area. We're demapping a lot of the same streets that we're site selecting. The only kind of change here is Newdorp Lane, which is an existing built street, and that we're demapping south of Cedar Grove Avenue. That street is half owned by the city and half owned by MPS. They're fully aware that we're taking this demapping action. You know, they're participating in this project, and it isn't needed for access to Miller Field in any way. So we're going to be demapping that street to facilitate the construction of the seawall. And And yet again, like I said, the majority of these streets are unbuilt, and demapping them won't impede access to private properties. So in terms of next steps, we're trying to seek approval of this application by the end of this year, and that's so that that aligns with the Army Corps' original timeline, which was to begin construction in the spring of 2019. And then we're planning on acquiring the remaining private properties towards the end of this year and early next year. And then our target to certify that third loop I spoke about to demap the streets and the drainage areas and do the grade changes is in early 2019. And then, of course, we're just continuing to coordinate with the Army Corps on project design. We have a meeting with them to actually discuss the status of real estate acquisitions in a couple weeks, because that'll factor into how they break out their different contracts for the construction of the project. And this here is just this is a picture of the existing boardwalk, and then that's the Army Corps' rendering of what they think the seawall and boardwalk would look like, and that's in South Beach. All right, that is all I have. Let me just put up this map for now. Any questions or comments?
Any board members have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, so we will move right along to the resolution then. I love these because these are always so nice and long. Okay. Whereas the City of New York, to be known going forward as the city, the Department of Parks and Recreation, DPR, Department of Transportation, DOT, and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, in coordination with the Mayor's Office of Recovery and Resiliency, ORR, proposed the site selection of 5 city-owned tax lots and 43 lots intended for transfer to the city by the New York State House Trust Fund Corporation, totaling approximately 3.9 acres in Staten Island, New York. The city also proposes the site selection of 8 sections of street bed totaling 9.3 acres. Whereas the city is seeking a change in the city map to eliminate, discontinue, and close, demap 11 sections of street bed totaling 21.5 acres. In addition to this change in the city map, 3 record streets totaling 0.5 acres will be extinguished. The extinguishment of these record streets, demapping of 11 streets, and site selection of 48 lots and 8 street sections are in connection with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers National Economic Development Plan recommended for implementation in the South Shore of Staten Island, Coastal Storm Risk Management Interim Feasibility Study for Fort Wadsworth to Oakwood Beach, also known as the project. Whereas both the city map change and site selection actions are required to facilitate the project, which consists of the following: construction of a 5.3-mile-long line of protection, also known as LOP, a continuous stretch of seawall, flood wall, and levee. 2, construction of drainage ponds. 3, restoration and enhancement of wetlands. 4, roadway raisings for access to the LOP during storm events and to prevent spillover between drainage areas. And 5, preservation of open space essential to the functioning of the drainage ponds. As per a project partnership agreement, PPA, to be executed by U.S. ACE, the State of New York, NYS, and a sub-agreement to be executed by New York State and the city is responsible for providing all real property interest required for construction, operation, maintenance of the project prior to the release of construction contract documents anticipated for the end of 2018, according to U.S. ACE's project schedule. Further, the LOP and drainage areas will also remain under the city's jurisdiction as a city facility, except for the portion that crosses Miller Field, a property under the ownership of the federal government and managed by NPS as part of the Gateway National Recreation Area. And the city will be required to operate and maintain the entirety of the LOP post-construction. Whereas the city is seeking to site select property and demap streets to allow for the construction of the project from Fort Wadsworth to Oakwood Beach. These parcels and streets surrounding parkland and neighboring homes are situated in an area that, due to its unique nature, has a history of flood risk and is susceptible to the impacts of storm events. The shorefront within the study area contains high ground features at an elevation of plus 10 feet NGVD. corresponding to the location of Father Capodanno Boulevard. Landward of this high ground, the terrain slopes down to much lower elevation levels where Staten Island's East Shore communities are located, before sloping back up to highland, creating an area vulnerable to significant flooding conditions. Whereas the site selection area in Oakwood Beach encompasses the following 48 lots. Block 4160, lots 11, 13, 16, 18, 20, 23, 26, 37, 339, 341, 349, 352, 355, and 358. Block 4782, lot 40, block 4791, lots 50 to 58, 61, 71, 73, 82, 84, 85, 86, and 90, block 4792, lots 201, 204, 206, and 208 to 210, block 4793, lots 70, 72, 74 to 77, block 4802, lots 11, 18, and 19, and block 4803, lot 18. Also included within the site selection are 8 sections of the following 6 streets: Agda Street, Box Street, Cedar Grove Avenue, Emmett Avenue, Fox Lane, and Talton Street. The demapping area, which largely overlaps with that proposed for site selection in this application, consists of 11 sections of the following 10 final map street: Agda Street, Box Street, Cedar Grove Avenue, DeWitt Avenue, Emmett Avenue, Great Kills Lane, Juneau Avenue, Newdorp Lane, Pendale Street, and Todd Place. All are located within the 100-year floodplain. Whereas all 48 of the lots proposed to be site selected are vacant. While some have been vacant for many years, a number of properties have been improved with detached homes that have been demolished in more recent years as part of the New York State buyout and acquisition program. All of the lots are surrounded by other vacant properties, wetlands, and existing parkland. Several also appear to be within existing wetlands areas, to be confirmed by a pending New York State DEC wetland delineation. Oh, I can't get that out. 2 lots are adjacent to the Oakwood Beach wastewater treatment plant, and 2 others are adjacent to a property improved with a 2-family home that the city is in the process of acquiring, subject to the previously approved ULURP related to this project, ULURP number C170119 PCR. The second cluster of lots subject to this application are those along Kissam Avenue. All of the lots adjoin existing parkland and or wetlands. Although Kissam Avenue will not be demapped as part of this application, the full length of this street is proposed to be raised to provide vehicular access to the crest of the levee, particularly during storm events when low-lying areas may be inundated with floodwaters. A future ULURP will include the grade change actions necessary to facilitate the road raising. Whereas the Borough Board of the Borough of Staten Island agrees that the change in the city map to eliminate, discontinue, and close, demap 11 sections of street bed totaling 21.5 acres in addition to 3 record streets totaling 0.5 acres being extinguished, and the site selection of 48 lots and 8 street selections are imperative for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers National Economic Development Plan recommended for implementation in the South Shore of Staten Island Coastal Storm Risk Management Interim Feasibility Study for Fort Wadsworth to Oakwood Beach. Now, therefore, it be resolved that pursuant to the New York City Uniform Land Use Review Procedure and Section 197C of the New York City Charter, the Borough Board of the Borough of Staten Island hereby supports city planning applications 190-302 PSR and 180-303 MMR for the South Shore of Staten Island Storm Risk Management Project in the City of New York, Borough of Staten Island, Community District 3. Any questions or comments on the resolution?
Want a bottle of water?
What was that lot number again?
Okay. Can we entertain a motion, please?
Motion to accept.
Okay, Jerry first, Nick second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everybody in favor, all 7? Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming. The meeting is officially over.